Hey there, welcome back to True North Reviews. My name is Ryan, and today we're doing another installment of Hot and Cold. For those of you who are new to this, we're recapping the past week of new music releases, in particular the singles that caught my attention, for better or for worse, and I'm here to give some good old recommendations. Kicking the week off with the hot, we've got a new single from Lizzo. It's called Because I Love You. Man, this thing, you don't want to miss out on it. By far the best vocal performance of the year, and I'd be absolutely flabbergasted if anyone topped it. The range, the growls, the soul, the energy. I love the 6/8 feel to the rhythm. I also love the synthetic industrial breakdowns. This track is phenomenal. It's pop, it's rap, it's soul. Just listen to it. Next up, we have the singer-songwriter J.S. Ondara. I hope I'm pronouncing that name correctly, but we're getting a beautiful track from him, which is called Lebanon. It's a beautiful track that reminds me quite a bit of Leon Bridges, at least from his first album. There's some real nice 50s style instrumentation on here with what sounds like an upright bass, a very warm tone. The acoustic guitar and the snare clacks fit the singing style of the track. Definitely a soothing listen. Another fantastic vocal performance, just very different from the first song I mentioned on this list. Switching up the styles again, I'm trying to keep things varied here in case you prefer one genre over another. Alexisonfire is returning from their breakup, and hell yeah, I can get behind that. They're a post-hardcore punk band from the 2000s. They're Canadian too. The member that would probably stick out the most to you would be Dallas Green, Mr. City and Color himself. Their new track is entitled Familiar Drugs, and it is familiar. They're calling back to a lot of their distorted guitar sounds, their screams. There's a lot of metalcore influence on this track. Actually, the big influence I noticed on this when it came out was the sheen of stoner rock production. Very lo-fi, very low quality. But I think it's a great return, possibly a new album. We don't really know yet, but I think I'll be held over with this new song. Moving on from there, we get some pop from Katy Perry and Zedd. They come together on a new song called 365, and this one is instantly catchy. Really, just great songwriting. Zedd comes through with a very fresh and easy to swallow kind of beat, which most pop is intending to do, but I gotta give the respect where it is deserved. We can't forget about Katy Perry either. She has one of the most defining voices of the 2010s, and I'm very happy for her to be on this song. She's got a great voice and a great personality. For the hip-hop fans this week, I gotta give a shout-out to Quelle Chris for his new song, Guns. This one's not a hard-hitting banger. It's more of a social commentary on guns. Yeah, you guessed it. It's a great listen, interesting vocals, and the piano and the beat round out the track to make it sound like a laid-back J. Cole kind of song if you're looking for the mainstream comparison. Pronoun, that's the name of the new artist of the week that I'm checking out here for the first time. She's got a new song out there. It's called Stay, and that's just what we need at this point, another song called Stay. If you're going to listen to any one of them, though, this week, make sure it's this one because it's friggin' amazing. It's alternative rock, by the way, and the last few tracks I'll be talking about on the hot list this week will be alternative rock as well. Weyes Blood, another newer kind of artist in the way that I'm checking out her music for the first time. She was featured on one of Father John Misty's cuts from God's Favorite Customer last year, actually the title track, and it was an incredibly haunting performance. She's returning with her own song this time. It's called Every Day. It's a very indie-oriented track, a great vocal performance on there as well. The lyrics, they are still somewhat original, even though the topic has been done about a million times, but don't let me undersell it. I'm still looking forward to the new record. Next up, we have Catfish and the Bottlemen. They're returning with their second single for their forthcoming album. We have a title for that record now. It's going to be called The Balance, and it's going to be dropping at the end of April. This new single is called Fluctuate, not as good as the lead single Long Shot in my opinion, but it's still got a great rock feel. The drumming is authoritative. The bass line is alright, but again, it's the bridge that kind of steals the show here, as many of the Catfish catalog kind of does that. There's just a lot to like with the floor tom thumping kind of drum beat and the guitar solo, and it kind of rounds it out just to be a great song. The last hot track I have to recommend here is an instrumental from the new Broken Social Scene EP. This one is called Remember Me Young. It has nice synthetic instrumentation along with guitars, and it's got a nice urgent beat to it. Now onto the middle of the road tracks. These are okay. They didn't really blow me out of the water, but they're still worth mentioning. First up, we have Please Me by Bruno Mars and Cardi B. This is their first time collaborating since the remix of Finesse that was on Bruno's album 24 Karat Magic. And yeah, I'm not a fan of Cardi B in the slightest, but I will admit that she livened up Finesse where Bruno just fell flat. I mean, other than his high register screaming at this point, which kind of comes off as one-dimensional at this point. I feel like he's doing it a little too frequent. So yeah, Bruno is again reaching for the skies on the hook of this new song. It's pretty catchy. It reminds me quite a bit of 24 Karat Magic aesthetically speaking. Cardi B, on the other hand, is vulgar and it's very cringy. I can't stand it. Her flows are weak, they all sound the same after a while, and I will forever defend Nicki Minaj as the superior rapper. There's no contest. Next up, we have Hozier, who is releasing yet another single in support of his new album coming out in March. This one is called Dinner and Diatribes, an improvement over his last single, Almost Sweet Music. But at this point, I feel like a lot of the songs on the Nina Cried Power EP will be the highlights on this album. With the exception of Movement, I'm not really convinced that this 14-song project will be as deep as I was expecting it to be. Some more pop for those kinds of fans out there. We have a new Slayyyter track. It's called Mine. Makes sense for it to have been dropped with Valentine's Day last week. This one is very well produced, very clean, very polished, easily the tightest mix that we're getting on this list here this week. But sadly, the chord progression is a little too generic for me to enjoy, as well as the vocal performance it comes off is very grating. Next up, we have 11 Minutes by Halsey and YUNGBLUD featuring Travis Barker. This one, I like the drum beat. We've got some trap elements in there with the hi-hats, but we also got some real kind of toms in there too. I don't like the try-hard, edgy kind of lyrics. I've never been a fan of Halsey for that, if I'm being completely honest. But the chorus is alright, and that's why it ends up on the middle of the road list. Now onto the cold tracks of the week. These were by far the worst I heard. Kalani's new single, Butterfly. This thing is disgustingly bad. The vocals are terrible, very breathy, just avoid it at all costs. Gunna put out a new song as well. It's called Speed It Up. It's heavily repetitive. The first 30 seconds is what you're gonna get for the entire thing, so if you enjoy it, go for it, but it's just not my cup of tea. Avril Lavigne and Nicki Minaj collaborate on a track called Dumb Blonde. It samples Gwen Stefani's Hollaback Girl. I admire the attempt to be empowering, but the execution just comes off as really corny. The song is laughable. Nicki shows no chemistry with Avril whatsoever, and that should come as no surprise given that the rap verse was inserted at a later date than the original recording. It's just a bad song with a good message, unfortunately. BB Rexa has a new song out. It's called Last Hurrah, and her vocal expression of the word hurrah is horrendous. And wrapping up this week with some rap, we have Juice WRLD and his new song Robbery. I couldn't care less for it. Sounds like the worst reincarnation of Fetty Wap I've ever heard, but hey, at least he shed some of his Post Malone influence. And yeah, we'll leave it at that. Sound off down below in the comments, leave a like, subscribe if you're new in town. Feel free to leave a recommendation for any songs you want to see covered in the future, and I will catch you next week in another episode of Hot and Cold. Have a rockin' day.